solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please have a seat over here.
Okay, I'll tell you what I told you, civility witnesses. Please don't speak over each other. Mr. Tomas will go first, the state will go second, and then he'll go third. If you don't understand the question, let me know. The lawyer can always re-ask it. If you hear the word objection, please pause, and I'll tell you if we're going to continue answering or if we're going to move on to another question, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
I'm Daisy Link.
So, Daisy, you were in a relationship with Pedro Jimenez, correct?
Correct.
And you all worked together for a long time, correct?
Yeah.
You had how many kids together?
2.
What are their names?
Pedro and Mia.
How old are Pedro and Mia right now?
Right now, Mia is 9 and Pedro is 11.
Back in June of 2022, how old were Pedro and Mia?
Mia was 5 and Pedro was 7. He was about to be 8 2 months later.
What's his birthday?
August 7th.
All right, so I wanna focus on what happened 5 days prior to the shooting first. But before I do, 5 days prior to the shooting, when you were injured, what was the status of your relationship with Pedro Jimenez Sr.?
We were off and on, but for the most part, at that moment, we were just in a sense of a nonchalant relationship with each other. Like, we weren't together, but he would come as he wanted to for the kids.
Did he live with you?
No.
Okay. So where did he live?
He lived at his mom's house. He had started staying there for about 2 months prior. He started going there a lot when he came home from being over the road.
Do you happen to know the address of his mother's house?
956 Northwest 4th Terrace, Florida City, 33034.
Okay. Judge, if I could approach the witness.
Yes, and both sides can have freestanding permission to approach the witnesses.
So Daisy, I'm going to show you what's been marked as in evidence as defense exhibit A. Can you tell me what that is?
That's one of his licenses.
One of Pedro's licenses?
Yes,
And what's the address on that license?
956 Northwest 4th Terrace.
Is that his mother's house
Yes,
where he lived?
yes,
You said one of his licenses. There's more than one license?
yes.
Okay, I don't know if you can see, but a different page of the same exhibit, there are 2 licenses on there, correct?
Correct.
Are both of them Pedro Jimenez's licenses?
Yes,
Do they appear to have the same address on them?
yes,
Do both of those licenses have the address of his mother's house as his residence?
yes.
Now, the place where you lived back in 2022, your residence, did you own or rent or lease in that location?
He rented.
Did you have a lease,
Yes,
a written lease?
yes.
So I'm going to show you what's been marked for ID as... I don't objection. Okay. So I'm going to show you what's been marked for ID as... well, actually, Judge, at this time, by stipulation of the parties, I'll remove defense, what's been listed as A5 and A6 into evidence.
Go ahead, Corporal Margaret.
A5 is now defense D, A6 is E.
Thanks. So I'm showing you Exhibit E. Tell me what that is.
This is the lease that I had for the house.
Now, what period of time does that lease cover?
This is from March of 2021, so that's basically for the following year.
It's a 1-year lease?
Yeah, into 2022.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you Exhibit D. Can you tell me what that is?
This was the new lease.
Beginning when?
This is for the new year, so this was for 2022.
2022 to 2023?
Correct.
So does that lease cover the period of time that fell on June of 2022?
Yes, it's from March 22 to March of 23.
Is Pedro on that lease?
No,
Now that lease is a little bit different in form from the other exhibit that I just showed you, correct?
correct.
Do you know why that is?
A new owner had bought it, so they had to redraft another contract.
So just so we're clear, Exhibit E is a lease which covers the period March 1st, 2021 through March 1st of 2022. At that time, a different person owned that property, correct?
Correct.
And at some point, that property was sold, and the lease, which covers 2022 to 2023, was prepared by a different person who was the new owner. Is that correct?
Correct.
Was Pedro on that lease?
No, he wasn't.
Only you were on the lease, correct?
Correct.
And the lease stated that your children also lived with you, correct?
Yes.
Now, prior to that, because you lived at the property where you lived in 2022, you had lived there for some time, correct?
Correct.
Around how many years had you lived there?
Roughly, I'm gonna say about 4 going on 5 years.
Earlier on, in previous leases, was Pedro on those leases?
Yes.
So there was a time where you all lived together.
Yes.
But at a certain point, he was removed from the lease.
Yes.
And as you just stated, in 2022, June of 2022, that was not Pedro's residence anymore, correct?
No, correct.
At some point, did you change the locks to that residence?
Yes, I had to.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
He began to break into the house.
Okay. So you changed the locks, I presume he didn't have a key.
No.
All right, so I wanna ask you about 5 days before Pedro died. What happened that day?
How would you want me to start from the beginning?
I guess let's start from the beginning of the day. Start from the beginning of the day. What's going on? What are your plans for that day?
I remember I picked him up.
Picked who up?
I picked up Pedro.
All right, where did you pick him up and around what time, if you remember?
I picked him up at his mom's house. I know he was supposed to be going back to work, driving within the next day. So I picked him up from his mother's house so he could see the kids around 1:30, 2 o'clock, between that window.
All right, you picked him up? So he came to your house?
I brought him to the house mainly to speak to my mom. She was really upset with him.
No, wait, hold on a second. I'm not talking about the day he died. I'm talking about 5 days before.
Okay.
Were you mixed up there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about the pistol whipping day.
That day.
So let's start over.
Okay.
So 5 days before he dies, the day you got hit in the head.
Okay.
Tell me, how does that day start?
I remember I went to go. he was at somebody's house, and he had took my dogs from the day before.
Well, I don't want to, I guess let me put it this way. At some point, are you home and do you have guests in your house?
Okay, so yeah.
Okay,
Later.
around what time was that?
This is roughly, I'm gonna say maybe around 9 or 10. It wasn't too late, and it was late in the evening.
9 or 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
All right, who did you have at your house?
It was me, my cousin David, and 3 of his kids. They were playing with Papa and Mia.
When you say Papa, is that Pedro Jr.?
That's Pedro.
All right, so just so we're clear, at your home on this day, at night, you're there, your cousin David Perez is there, your 2 kids are there, and David Perez's 3 kids are there. Is that correct?
That is.
So there's 7 people in the home, 5 children, 2 adults?
Yes.
Anybody else?
No, that's
All
it.
right. Was there any special reason for this visit, or just to get together, or what?
It was just hanging out for the kids to play.
Okay. At some point, did somebody else come to your house?
Pedro.
All right, so Pedro were you expecting Pedro to come over?
I wasn't.
All right, so he comes over and what happens?
Well, initially me and David were sitting in the kitchen, and we were just drinking a couple beers, and we were laughing, having a good time. I know the kids were all in the living room, and they were playing Fortnite, and I just hear a loud bang, like kind of like how, like the police will knock on the door. So I opened it, and he was there. He never met my cousin, so he didn't know.
Any questions?
So.
Hold on, it's the same, so he's gonna ask another question.
Mhm.
Did Pedro know your cousin David? Had you never met him before?
No, he didn't.
All right. So Pedro arrives. Does he see, as far as you know, does he see David there?
When I opened the door, he seen me and David.
And what happens when he sees that?
There was just a glare from me to David, back to me, and from there, he pulled out a gun.
Pulled out a gun?
Yeah.
Pedro pulled out a gun, and what did he do after he pulled out the gun?
Initially, he charged at me with the gun, and he hit me once with it, but me and David began to wrestle the gun off of him.
Were you able to take the gun from him?
I did.
Right.
I did.
When you took it from him, what happened?
From there, I pointed it at him, and I guess our fingers were kind of intertwined. Because if not, I probably would have taken it. He ended up getting it back from me.
Pedro got the gun back?
Yeah.
What if anything did Pedro do once he got the gun back from you?
He pointed it at me, so I ran towards the front door, and I heard a bullet. Well, I heard it dislodge.
So he fired the gun at you?
He fired it at me. I'm not sure where he fired it at, whether it was through the door or through, I'm not sure. But I did hear it go off. So I ran out the door and I fell because the house is elevated. There's steps to go up. So I fell and I hit the ground. And from there.
So I just want to clarify, did you run out one of the doors?
Yes,
to
the front
outside?
door. It started from the back of the house. And from the back of the house is the kitchen. And then there's the living room. And then there's the front door. So
did you trip and fall outside the house or inside the house?
I fell outside.
Right. What happened after you fell?
From there, he jumped over the ledge.
When you say he, who are you talking about?
Pedro.
Okay, he jumped over.
He jumped over the ledge and he pinned my arms down with his legs and he began to bludgeon me with the pistol, with the metal end of the pistol.
Okay.
And I remember David shouting at him. I remember just getting hit over and over again. And I tried to fight, but he was just too big for me. And after that, I just hear my son screaming. And that's when it stopped, and he ran off.
So your son screamed at his dad,
Yeah,
and then it stopped, and Pedro ran off.
yeah.
Did you see him again that day?
No.
All right. All right, so he runs off. What do you do at that point?
Me and David attempted to take the kids and go to a hotel in case he decided to come back again. As we left, I had forgot my phone, so I turned back around. I was still right around the corner, but there were already police cars that were on the way. So apparently somebody must have called the police.
Okay. So the police arrived, and I guess you had to speak with them, and they were there to see you, right? Because somebody had called the police because of what happened to you.
Correct.
Right. Once you're done with the police, however long that took a few hours, I would imagine, right?
It did.
Okay. Once you're done with the police, did you reach out to any other members of your family to let them know what was going on?
No, I just stayed there with David.
Okay. I mean, at some point, did you reach out to your sister, for example?
Yeah, later that night.
All right. Did you send her pictures?
Yeah, after we took them, because I guess I must have been in so much shock that I didn't realize I was covered in blood. I didn't realize they were there.
And just to be clear, I'm showing you Defense Exhibit C and B. Are these the pictures you sent to your sister?
I sent a few more. I had more than one gash on my head.
So you sent her a bunch of pictures, but these are two of the pictures that you sent to your sister.
Yes.
At some point, does your sister come to you? Do you get together with her?
Yeah, Crystal came the next day after I had woke up.
After you woke up?
Yeah, I passed out.
Okay. Tell me about that. When was it that you passed out? Around what time? And for how long?
Well, I stayed up roughly till, I'm gonna say, about 5, maybe 6 in the morning, give or take. And David stayed with me because he was worried that if I fell asleep prior to that, sooner, that I could have a concussion. So I stayed up as long as I could, and then I passed out.
Right. Do you know around how long you were out for?
I woke up maybe around 5 or 6 in the afternoon, but I only woke up because my son was screaming. He thought I was dead.
Okay. So you wake up, and then what? Did you get together with Crystal at that point?
From there, Crystal comes to the house, and when she sees my head, she begins to basically go get frantic. She wanted me to go to the hospital, and at first I was rebuttaling it, that I'll be fine. But from what she says, it looked pretty bad, that she could see my skull on multiple spots.
Right. So did you go to the hospital at that point?
I went.
All right. So and Crystal, she stayed with your kids so that you can do that, correct?
Correct.
All right. All right, so you go to the hospital. After you're done with the hospital, at some point, do you have contact with Pedro again?
Yeah. Yes.
When is this initial contact? Is it like, what, 2 days or a day and a half after after he pistol whipped you, or more
Like
than that?
physical, like in person, this was about, I'm gonna say, the next day, and that was to try to get the dogs back.
Okay. What, if anything, did Pedro tell you when you saw him?
The first time,
Hold on, overruled, you can answer.
the first time he wasn't giving them up, so I didn't.
Well, I don't want to talk about the dogs. I'm specifically,
Okay.
what, if anything, is he telling you in reference to what he just did to you a couple of days before?
So 2 days later, he wanted to talk to me. He was telling me in the messages and stuff how much he loved me and how sorry he was, that he just wanted to come home to be with me because he missed me and he seen me there with some random guy. But that he loved me and he was sorry.
So, first off, why did you agree to be in the same place with the person who had just done that to you?
He was already sober. Like, I wasn't scared of him when he was sober. It was when he was a monster on drugs that I was scared. When he was on drugs, he was a monster.
When he pistol whipped you, as far as you know, was he on drugs?
Yeah.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Yes, he was.
When you spoke to him after that, a couple days after that, and you said that he apologized to you, he did, as far as you know, he was not on drugs, is that correct?
At that point in time, no, because his parents didn't allow that in their house. So when he would go over there, basically, he was clean.
And can you tell us or explain to us why you wouldn't have just called the police as soon as he did that to you?
I couldn't. That's one, he would have gotten deported. Two, he wasn't allowed to be with the kids at all by himself, or when his mom wasn't around. I would have gotten the kids taken away. And that's the father of my kids. It's not like I didn't love him. I did.
I understand. All right, so he says he's sorry. Did you accept and believe his apology?
I did.
And were you guys okay at that point?
At that point, I took him back home with me.
Okay. Now, when you say you took him back home, what does that mean? Does that mean
I let him
we're
come back to-
family again, or does that mean something else?
No,
What does it mean?
that just means that I forgave him.
So you took him back home, and did he stay with you that night?
That night, I picked the kids up from Crystal's house again, and he stayed at the house and he slept with Pedro Jr.
Did Pedro and your daughter, did they have a room together?
Yeah,
Okay. What do they have? Do they have bunk beds?
yeah,
So he stayed in the room with the bunk beds?
yeah, and Mia slept with me.
Okay. Okay, so I'm guessing Pedro slept on the bottom bunk and Pedro Jr. slept on the top bunk.
Well,
That
unless
was-
he got up top, but
Okay.
no, yeah.
But Pedro's a big guy, right? So he'd probably be better off
Yeah,
on the bottom bunk.
he's pretty big.
Okay, so that was that night. What about the next night? What if any interaction is going on with you and Pedro the following day?
The next day, I remember he took me out to eat with the kids. He took me to Dave and Buster's. He bought me a new ring, this really nice Indian face ring, because he knew I loved those gold Indian face rings. And we had a good time with each other.
All right. And that night, did he stay at your residence?
He did.
Okay. Did he sleep with you, or did he sleep in the bunk beds?
He slept with the kids, but I had sex with him, if that's what you're asking. He slept with me, but didn't sleep with me.
Okay. So you were intimate with him at some point, but he didn't sleep with you through the night. He
No.
stayed.
No.
All right. And during these 2 days, where you're spending these 2 days with him, as far as you know, was he using any drugs, getting intoxicated, anything like that?
No.
So I want to fast forward to June 24th. I want to start at the beginning. Was Pedro come to your house, or did he stay at your house from the night before?
And that day,
This is just so we're clear. This is the day leading up to the early morning hours where he died. Okay.
no, that day, I believe I picked him up from his mom's house because he was working with his semi over there. He had to wash his clothes and get all his stuff ready because the next day he was leaving.
Okay, so he was staying at his mom's house. The address that's on his license.
Correct.
You went to go pick him up over there, I guess, early in the day?
Around like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, around there.
All right. You pick him up and you go where?
I took him to my house.
To your house. Was there anybody else at your house at that time when you got there?
It's my mom.
Your mom?
Yes.
Your mom had come down from Texas, right?
Yes.
Why did your mom come down from Texas?
Objection, hearsay.
You can ask.
She wanted one to get him arrested, which I would not allow. So, after the fact, we agreed to go back together
To Texas?
to Texas.
Okay. And the plan was for you to finally leave to Texas when?
He was supposed to leave Sunday.
When you say he was supposed to leave, are you talking about Pedro?
Pedro was supposed to leave on Sunday. So
Let me stop you, I'm sorry. You say he was supposed to leave. Are you saying that he was going to leave in his truck to go work?
yes,
So he's going to go on a road trip for work?
he leaves out of town, and I wouldn't see him for sometimes 2 months at a time. So he was getting ready to leave for work. He was an interstate truck driver, and I brought him over to. Well, I'm sorry.
All right, so the plan was once he's gone on the road trip, that's when you're going to move and...
That's when we were gonna move. We were just waiting for him to leave so he wouldn't know.
Okay. All right, so you said that you picked him up at his mother's house, you brought him over, your mom was at your house, your kids were at your house, right?
Yes.
Right. At some point, does he leave?
Yeah, I'm gonna say around maybe anywhere from like 45 minutes, an hour later.
Okay, how is it that he leaves?
A white van came, and I know Kevin was in there with Kevin Bonilla,
Yeah.
and a couple of his friends were with them, and they came and they picked him up.
So Kevin Bonilla and a couple of Pedro's friends drove over there, and he left with them in their white van, is what you're saying?
Yes, before he left, he told me later to pick him up.
Pedro told you to pick him up?
Yeah, because he didn't have his car. I know a tree fell on his car at the base that he works at in Orlando. So he currently didn't have his own car.
Did Pedro have a phone at that point?
No, he didn't.
Okay. So he told you to pick him up. Did he tell you when to pick him up?
He just told me later. So for me, I knew later usually would have been if he were to have called me from anybody else's phone, it probably would have been about 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm not picking him up at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I went like around maybe 10 or 11 o'clock.
Okay, so you went to pick him up, and you brought him back?
Yeah.
While you were driving back home after picking him up at Kevin's house,
Well, he did have a phone though, but he disconnected it. I just wanted to, so that way,
Pedro disconnected his phone?
He disconnected the phone and he ordered another one, and it hadn't came yet because he threw the phone in the yard, somebody's yard, the night of the bludgeoning. So
after he pistol whipped you, he tossed his phone?
So if the police wouldn't they wouldn't trace it.
Okay. So you pick him up, you're on your way back home, it's around, 10 o'clock at night, more or less?
More or less.
All right. On the car ride back, what, if anything, is going on?
Initially, we were supposed to take him back to his mom's house. But once we get to the store, he asked me to take him to get some beer. So I took him. Once he got it, I realized that the keys, we didn't have them. So
Keys to what?
the keys to his mom's house.
Okay, so Pedro left the keys to his mom's house in your house?
Yeah, it was right next to the front door on top of the china cabinet.
Right, so just to be clear, when you went to pick him up at Kevin's house, your plan was to take Pedro to his mother's house?
Yes.
Your plan wasn't to bring him back initially?
No, not initially, no.
All right. But at some point, you realize you don't have his keys and he needs his keys, right?
Correct.
Were his parents out of town or something?
His dad was the only one that lived there. His mom left his dad for a period of time.
Okay. Okay. All right, so you went back to your house so that he can get his keys, right?
Yes.
And what happens?
When I told him basically that that the keys are at the house, he said, well, just go back anyways. He wanted to see the kids, tell them goodbye because he had to leave in the morning. So I took him and he got out. And he began to talk to my mom once we got there. And I don't know how or where the conversation just went from, it took a whole 180 turn. And I just remember by the time I got my stuff out of the car, the kids' bags and stuff from earlier, I just hear him going off with my mom saying how I was a whore and how he knows that I was fucking this boy, this other guy.
Okay. At some point, does he leave?
After he choked me the first time, yeah.
Okay, what happened with that? How did that come about, him choking you?
I kept denying it, so he began to get angry. And from there, the first time he grabbed me by my throat, and my mom threatened to call the police. So he let go, and then he ran to the back of the alley, where the alley was.
So he ran away after choking you and after your mom told him that she was going to call the police, right?
Correct.
Before my next question, Judge, I would ask that what's marked as Defense Exhibit A4 for identification be admitted as a self-authenticated order that we've discussed before.
Any objection?
No objection, subject to jury instruction.
All right, then we admitted, go ahead.
Defense A4 marked for ID now becomes defense number F.
F, right?
Yes, Judge. Yes, Judge.
So Daisy, I'm showing you what's in evidence as Defense Exhibit F. This is an order that addresses Pedro's parental rights. I want to direct you to, one moment. I want to direct you to the second page where it says, visitation for Pedro Jimenez with the child, Pedro Jimenez and Mia Jimenez, shall be as follows. The mother may supervise FaceTime calls at her discretion. The father shall have supervised visits at a minimum.
Objection, evidence speaks for itself.
Hold on, is there a question?
Yes, if I can finish.
Go ahead.
Father shall have supervised visits at a minimum of 1 time per month, supervised by the paternal grandmother. Who is the paternal grandmother?
Pedro's mom.
Pedro's mom. So Pedro was allowed to have 1 visit per month.
Objection, meeting.
Overruled.
Pedro was allowed to have 1 visit per month with his children, as long as it was supervised by Pedro's mother, correct?
Yes.
In June of 2022, where did Pedro's mother live?
She moved to Georgia. She separated with her husband because he was abusive.
Would she frequently come back to Florida from Georgia, as far as you know?
No.
All right. So, Pedro chokes you. Your mother tells him, I'm going to call the police. He leaves. Does he come back at some point?
He kept coming back, talking, I guess, to my mother. He was hysterical. And then I would tell.
Did it appear to you, based on knowing him, that he was under the influence of anything?
Oh, he was. When I picked him up from Kevin's house, I walked in on him buying 6 bags of cocaine.
Okay. So he wasn't the sober person that you had dealt with a couple of days before, right?
No.
Right. So when he comes back after your mother initially threatened to call the police, what happens when he came back?
The first time he began he was hysterical, telling me how I betrayed him,
Objection, hearsay.
how he gave me everything. I threw 9 years down the drain, and he again tried to, as I denied it again. Clearly he had his facts in order, he knew, but I wasn't.
Hold on. Remember when your objection was paused?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so overruled, you can continue answering.
Yeah. Clearly he knew, but I just wasn't at that stage yet to admit, that I had moved on. So at that point, because I kept denying it, he got angry again, and
Objection.
I had pulled the gun out on him.
Hold on. We're going on a little too long, so
Okay.
so if the objection is sustained, we're gonna have to ask you another question.
So he's upset because he suspects that you're with another man or seeing another man, right?
Yes,
Okay. You said that he was very agitated.
yes.
Okay. So he kept pressing the issue, and then what, if anything, does he do at this moment?
At that point, he grabbed me again, and this time I had the gun in close range.
And what'd you do?
I pointed it at him
And what'd you say?
to leave.
Did he?
He ran.
He ran away?
He ran away.
At some point after that, does he come back?
Yes.
All right. What happens when he comes back? This third time now he's coming back, right? All right. What happens this third time that he comes back?
It's the same thing.
What
Basically,
happened?
the same thing. Just hysterical, crying. Basically saying I ruined their entire family,
Objection.
whatnot.
Oh, hold on. Let's all try to speak up. So there's an objection. It's overruled. You can finish
Sorry.
answering.
And then as he began to draw closer, at this point, I'm already scared. I can see that he's using, I can see that he's been using all day. From what happened a couple days before, my head is still healing. I'm beginning to be scared now.
Sustained narrative. Mr. Tomas is going to ask another question.
Okay.
So you're still recovering from your wounds, right?
Yes.
How are your wounds feeling, and what state are they in at that point that it's been a few days?
I mean, they're dry, but they're very open still.
Do they still hurt?
Yes.
All right, so you're feeling that, right? He's already left a couple of times, and now he's coming back. Is his demeanor escalating?
It is.
Okay, so now this time, again, when he's come back, what happens?
The last time,
Well, I want to go in order. So this is the third time. I'm not. How many times did
I
you
went
leave
to
and come
go,
back?
well, I went to go look for my purse.
Why'd you go look for your purse?
He took it out of the car with my phone and everything inside of it. But he kept going to the alley. So, and he didn't have it with him when he came back the second time. So I assumed he has it hidden somewhere, maybe right there by the end of the alley.
All right. So at what point is it that you realize or notice that your purse is missing?
At this point now, this is like maybe 11, well, this is 12, around 12. This is right before my mom had left.
All right. Was there anything in your purse that you needed?
Well, my phone, my credit cards. I know I had the keys still on me. And aside from that, no, just the phone, the credit cards, and I had some jewelry in there, so,
Okay. So you've got your keys on your person, right?
yes,
But your purse contained your credit cards and, importantly, your cell phone.
yes,
And your purse was missing.
yes.
All right, so I think you said you went to the alley to look for it?
I went to the alley. I had already not seen him come back for roughly, I'm gonna say, about 20 minutes, so I assume maybe he left.
Okay.
So I had put the gun on top of the china cabinet, and I walked to the alley to look around the palm trees, see if it was probably there. And as soon as I got around the area, he ran up from behind one of the bushes and grabbed me by my throat and threw me on the floor.
Okay, and when he threw you on the floor, what did you do?
He could see my mom, like, just screaming, saying the same thing again, that that's it, I'm gonna call the police. And he just took off again.
Took off again. All right, so this happens, takes off again, your mom is still there. Does he come back again while your mom is still there?
No, that's the last time.
Okay, so when he comes back later, your mom's already gone, right?
At that point, she left because I wouldn't let her call the police. So she just said she was tired of it. So she left. She
Okay.
called my sister to pick her up.
All right, so she got picked up and she left around, as best you can recall, around what time was it that your mom left?
I'm gonna say about, it could be possible from anywhere around 1:30, maybe 2.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay, so your mom leaves, so you're left there and your kids are there too, correct?
Yes, I had them inside of my room. They were locked in.
Okay. Were they, I mean, this is already late. Are they sleeping as far as you know?
Yeah, the babies are asleep.
Okay. All right, so tell me about when you, actually before I get to that point, do you recall a video that we saw a couple of days ago where Pedro is running across the screen and then you come out and you open the car door and then you yell at him?
Yes.
What was happening in that video?
That was after the first time when he grabbed me by my throat. And no, the second time when he grabbed me by my throat and I pulled the gun out on him. That's why he ran.
Okay. And do you remember, because in the video we can hear you yelling, but it's hard to make out what you're saying. Do you recall what you were saying in that instance?
I was yelling at him to leave, to stop coming back.
Okay. All right, so I want to get to the point where he comes back the final time. Tell me about that. How did that happen?
He had already not came back for a little, for a little while. I went outside to smoke a cigarette on the back porch, and I had the gun with me. And he came again, and he began telling me again how I was sleeping with this other guy, that the guy was a friend, was his friend's boyfriend, and I just got tired of lying to him. So I told him.
You told him you were sleeping with somebody else?
I did.
Okay. What happened when you did that?
I told him I was sorry, and he charged at me. He called me a fucking whore. He said that he gave me everything. I gave you
Hold on,
everything.
stop. We need to keep our voices up when we object. So there's an objection. Overruled, you can continue answering.
He said, "You fucking bitch, I gave you everything. I gave you fucking everything." And then from there, he charged at me. He grabbed me by my hair. He threw me to the floor.
Now, when he threw you to the floor and grabbed you by your hair, did you still had those wounds, right?
Yeah, I could already feel right then and there that they ripped open.
Okay.
So-
He threw you to the floor.
He threw me to the floor.
After he throws you to the floor, what do you do?
I grabbed the gun from the slab.
Okay, and what did you do once you got the gun?
I pointed at him and I told him, leave already.
Did he?
No, he told me that he didn't give a
Hold
fuck.
on.
They're objecting to
You didn't
hearsay.
hear when someone says, here's the
A little
objection.
bit.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
it's all right. There's an objection. Overruled, you can continue answering.
He told me that he was gonna lock me out of the house and that I was gonna sleep outside. When I began to walk towards him and I said, "No, you're not. You're gonna leave." He said, "I don't give a fuck, bitch. I'm ready to die. You could kill me." And he began to run towards the house.
And what did you do when you see him running towards the house to lock you out?
I took the shot.
Were you aiming to hit him?
I initially aimed towards the floor as I lifted up the gun. I didn't expect for it to hit him. I just thought the sound was gonna scare him off this time for good.
So immediately before you pulled the trigger, he was going towards your door and he was going to barricade himself inside the home, as far as you know, right?
He was.
All right. As soon as you fired that shot, did he abandon that intention and run off in a different direction?
He changed course, yes.
Okay, and he took off, right?
He began to run in a different direction, yes.
As he was running away after you fired the shot, did he appear injured? Did he appear like he was shot or hurt? Or
not at all. I didn't. That's why I didn't think he was hit at all.
Okay. I mean, did he say anything after you shot, like, ow, or you shot me, or anything like that?
I heard like, it was very faintly, but it was like, ah. So as a couple seconds began to pass by, now I'm a little scared. Did he get hit? I don't know. That's where I began to walk towards the front of the house.
Okay, what did you do with the gun at that point?
I still had it in my hand.
Okay, at some point, did you put it somewhere?
After I circled around the house entirely, I threw it inside of the tree right in front of my door.
Right in front of your front door?
Yes,
Okay. So you hid it somewhere where you would have access to it?
yes.
Okay. All right, at some point, do you find Pedro?
At some point I did after I heard the wailing, yes.
Okay, so he was wailing, and that's how you were able to locate where he was? Is that right?
That's, yes.
All right, so you go to him, and what do you see and what do you do?
I see him laying there as I get out of the car and I run up to him and I begin to ask him, where is it at?
Objection, hearsay.
I begin to ask him, where is it at? He couldn't tell me. He was disoriented. From there, I start to look for where it is that he was hit. I start to look for the phone.
When you say the phone, your phone?
Yes,
Because at this point, you still don't have your phone.
yes.
All right. So before we get back to Pedro, at some point, did you find your phone?
I found the phone. It was roughly about 2 feet away from his body.
It was laying next to his body?
It was laying next to his body, like maybe he had it in his hand or he was trying to use it, but
Okay.
he collapsed.
And did you call anybody when you found the phone?
I called 911.
All right. At some point, did you try to render aid to him in some way?
At that point, I was just on autopilot. I began stripping his shirt off, ripping it off, lifting up his leg, tying a tourniquet around his leg, and then I even tried as much as to lift him up, but one of his legs, he couldn't stand on it at all. He couldn't move.
Was that the leg that was shot, or was it the other leg?
It was the other leg,
It was the other leg.
yes.
So what? He's got a bullet hole in one leg, but the other leg, that's the one that he couldn't move.
Yes.
Did
he
you
couldn't-
know why he couldn't move it?
No, and when I would ask him what happened as far as to the leg, he couldn't tell me. He couldn't, nothing at all.
Okay. All right. So we saw the footage earlier in the trial when the police get there and what happened after that. Now we know that you didn't tell them. You weren't completely candid with them at first, with the police, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to us why you didn't just tell them everything from the get-go and why it took a little while before you could get to that?
They would have taken my kids.
Why do you say they would have taken your kids?
He wasn't supposed to be around. He wasn't supposed to be around the house at all. His mom was supposed to supervise them. He wasn't allowed to be there at all.
So you were afraid that because you were, if I'm correct, you're saying that you were concerned that because you were giving Pedro more visits than he was entitled to under that order, that they might penalize you. They might penalize you and possibly take away your kids, and that was a concern for you, correct?
Yeah.
All right. At some point you were handcuffed while you were still at your house or in the area of your house, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me what happened? When did that happen, or how did that happen?
Well, I kept asking the officers the entire night.
Hearsay.
Overruled, you can answer.
I was asking the officers the entire night whether they had resuscitated him or not. So I was pretty hysterical because they wouldn't tell me. They said I had to wait for the investigator to arrive for me to know anything as far as what's going on with him. In the process, I was calling hospitals to see where he was at, admitted. Finally, the investigator arrived, and as I walked up to him, I asked
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
if he was still alive, and immediately he told me no. I threw myself to the floor. I started to scream. I started crying. And
Well, and okay, so that's when you get confirmation that Pedro's dead.
yes,
All right, you said you threw yourself to the floor, you were emotional.
yeah.
What happens after that?
Pedro opens the door. I guess he woke up.
Pedro Jr.
Yeah, he opened the door. He was locked in the room, so he must have came out. He knew how to pick the lock. It's funny. But he came out the room and he opened the door, and the detective pushed him back in, and he arrested me, and he told him, "Don't come back outside."
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Okay. If you recall, how long, all right, so you're in handcuffs at that point. Where did they put you? Did they put you in the back of a car? Did they put you somewhere else?
They put me in a squad. They removed my jewelry and stuff off of me, and then they put me in one of the patrol cars for Homestead Police Department.
Okay, in the back seat.
Yes,
And they closed the door so that you couldn't open the door, right?
yeah, and they left me in there for roughly about, I'm gonna say 2 hours.
Okay. Was the car on? Was the air on?
They had the windows down, but they wouldn't let me use the restroom or anything like that.
Okay. At some point, you were transported to the police headquarters, right?
Yes,
Were you transported in a separate car, or were you transported in the same car that you sat in for 2 hours while handcuffed?
no, they moved me to a Metro squad unit.
All right, so you're told that Pedro's dead, you're put in handcuffs, and you sit in the back of a police car for about 2 hours, correct?
Correct.
Then after that, you're taken out of that car, you're put in a different car, and then you're transported to headquarters in that different car, correct?
Objection, needing.
Yes,
Overruled. You can answer.
yes.
That's correct? Okay. So you get to the station, and we saw the video. You gave a statement at some point. Prior to you giving the statement, at some point you were taken to the bathroom, correct?
Correct.
And at some point you were fingerprinted, correct?
Yes.
And you had an interaction with a couple of female detectives, is that correct?
During the fingerprinting, yes, that she brought an additional a domestic violence detective with her for that one,
When you say she, who are you referring to?
Melanie Janoris.
Okay. So Melanie Janoris is one of the homicide detectives that was investigating you, correct?
Correct.
And she's one of the people that you were primarily dealing with during this time, correct?
Correct.
In fact, in the video that we saw of your interrogation, there were two detectives in that room, right?
Yes.
Melanie Janoris was one.
Objection, needing.
Overruled. You can answer.
Yes.
And do you know who the other person in that room was?
Jason Cruz.
Detective Cruz.
Correct.
But prior to that, you came in contact with, you said, a female domestic violence detective?
Yes.
Other than that detective being present when you were being fingerprinted, other than that, was she ever present at any other point, as far as you know?
No. She basically only walked with us first to the bathroom, and then she walked with Melanie to just have me fingerprinted, but she wasn't there as far as for the interviewer, for the actual fingerprint, for the processes of anything.
And did that domestic violence detective have any interactions with you?
She did.
Okay, tell me about that interaction.
She told me that
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. Can you please sit down?
Judge, I'm trying to direct you.
she told
Can you keep
me,
your voice up, please?
yeah,
Can you sit
she
down now? The witness will keep her voice up.
she told me that she just wanted to help me, that unless I spoke to them and I told them what happened, then they couldn't know anything, that they wouldn't know anything, and that basically now I'm gonna end up spending the rest of my life in jail because I won't let them know what happened, that my kids could possibly get taken away.
Objection, hearsay, narrative.
All right. I'm going to give a limiting instruction. The objection is going to be overruled to the extent that Ms. Link is testifying about any limitation on her liberty, such as spending the rest of her life in jail. You will look at that from the point of view of her testifying, but we will not consider that as it will not affect her verdict, because we discussed that in jury selection. Okay? You can continue answering.
Okay. And that basically, unless I spoke to them and I let them know what really happened, then, you know, that was basically what was going to be the outcome. That it wasn't my fault that things like this happen. You know, people get tired.
Objection, hearsay, narrative.
Overruled.
I then began to tell her that it's not what it seems at all, that that's not what it is. And that I'll talk to you, I'll tell you what really happened. So I did.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
She then told me that
Objection, hearsay, narrative. No pending question.
What was the question?
She wasn't finished, so
Oh,
I just said go
wasn't
ahead.
finished.
'cause
Okay. Sustained, he's going to ask another question.
Okay. So after you have this interaction with that domestic violence detective, you proceeded to give the statement which we saw the video of a couple days ago, correct?
yes,
But that detective, that domestic violence detective, you didn't see her again, right?
after that, no, I never seen her again.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Link. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Let's see if there's any cross-examination.
There is, but can we go sidebar first?